Hey everybody, I'm James and this is Wonderbot. Say hey Wonderbot. Hi Wonderbot. Today we're going to be taking this vinyl assembly kit, which you can purchase from vinylwonder.com, and turning it into this fully assembled and painted Wonderbot toy. Without further ado, let's get to it.
All right. So we're going to start by heating up the soft vinyl with a heat gun. You can use a blow dryer if you don't have a heat gun, but a heat gun will be faster. Just make sure you keep it moving and that you don't burn the vinyl, because that can happen if you keep it too close. Now it's soft enough to cut, so we'll take an X-Acto knife. We'll very carefully cut the flashing off. Careful not to cut the actual joint. You just want to cut off the flashing there. And now we're going to cut the hole out for the arm, for the left arm. Now this is kind of tricky. It's very thick. The vinyl is very thick. It's not always this thick, but the factory that we get these made at pours them pretty thick, so very durable, but tricky to cut. There is another way that you can do this. You can use a drill. Now, I recommend doing a pilot hole with a very small drill. I'm using a Dremel with a little skinny drill bit attached, just to get a pilot hole first, and then going in with a thicker drill bit to drill the final hole through. You want to make sure that the vinyl's kind of hardened up for that. You don't want to drill it while it's hot. Now I'm going back through on the area, see where I drilled. That's the problem with drilling, is it leaves those little frayed bits. So you want to go back in and clean that up very carefully with a very sharp X-Acto knife. Make sure you're using a new blade. You don't want to use an old dull blade for this. Yeah, that's Clover, the one that's barking in the background. She's our little blind baby. She's a sweetheart. She likes to bark at all the fairies that she senses. And that's Hendrix. Alright, so here's what it looks like all cleaned up. That's the side that was drilled, and that was the side that was used with an X-Acto knife. Both have their bonuses. Both have their pluses and minuses. Just take your pick how you want to do that. We're going to go ahead and heat up the arms so we can do the same thing. I'm going to cut the flashing off of that. Now, careful right there, once again. Don't want to accidentally hit the joint and cut the joint off, or you won't be able to have anything to fit it in there. Now when you first do this, it might be a little tricky. I might be making it look kind of easy because I've been doing this for a long time, but just be careful. Make sure you're using a sharp knife. Make sure you're cutting away from yourself. Be very careful. You don't want to cut yourself. Alright, so right here, this is where there's a little tiny notch that you want to cut out. It's hard to see on this clear kit, but there's a little notch that's put in there so that there aren't any air bubbles in that one little spot. It's all the pour spouts typically have them. There's like a little notch somewhere, like a little line of vinyl that kind of goes through. You have to kind of cut the notch out. You see, now that it's cut out, it'll create a full lip so that it can set into the joint a lot easier. You can see it better right here. See that little notch, little line? You just want to kind of cut that out very carefully. Just kind of like making a V and then popping it out with the knife. There it is. There it goes. You just kind of clean it up. It's it's easy to accidentally cut a little too much, but as long as you kind of clean it up with your knife and make it look like it's intentional, you won't be able to tell. Alright, so now we're going to heat that up. Same thing. Going to slice off the bottom flashing. You see how I'm using my pinky to kind of balance my, to hold my hand steady? Kind of using it as sort of like a tripod. That's a good trick. All right, so now we're going to heat it up so that we can go ahead and start assembling the arms. So you want to get it pretty good and soft for this. You want to make it a little bit softer, a little bit warmer than you did when you were cutting. You want to get it about as soft as you can handle it. You know, you don't want it to get so hot that you can't touch it, but it like burns your fingers. But you want to get it pretty close. And once again, careful, keep things moving so you don't burn the vinyl. It's very easy to burn the vinyl if you keep the heat gun too close. These things get real hot. All right, so now it's real nice and squishy and soft, and so we can put that arm in there. Now the arm is firm. That's cold. You want to leave that firm and cold so that it kind of pushes into that soft joint easier. There we go. And then you kind of push and then twist. Little twist kind of helps get it in there, just to make sure it's in. It's locked in. And now we're going to try to put the other hand in there. It's pretty cold though, so the vinyl cools down pretty quickly, so you might have to heat it up again. That one side. Yeah, see, it's already hardened up. It already cooled down on us. So let's heat it again. Make sure you know, if this ever happens at any point when you're trying to assemble and you're having a hard time and it starts to cool down on you, just stop, heat it back up. You know, if it's not wanting to go in there, it's because it's probably not hot enough. It's not squishy enough. And another little tip is if you have like tendonitis or anything, arthritis or anything, and you want to wear it, you can get these wrist braces that can kind of help when you're doing this kind of thing. If you're doing it a lot, I like to wear wrist braces occasionally when doing this. There, see how much easier that goes in now that it's warmed up properly. So that's that. We're in our shop now. I'm gonna pick out some colors, and this is the spray booth. If you don't have a spray booth, you can paint outside with a fan, but definitely wear a vapor respirator. First up, you're going to want to get an airbrush. This is an Iwata Eclipse HPCS. It's the best of the best. I highly recommend it. These are latex gloves, double thick, Microflex Safe Grip. I really like these. They have an extended cuff on them. These are God hand brushes for details. We're not going to be doing any hand brushing details today, but the brushes are really nice. We're going to be doing clear magenta, clear purple, Vinyl Wonder toy paint, and a pearl white. Now the pearl white, you see the sediment really settles on this one, as does with most of the metallics and some of the opaques. So to save my arms from having to shake so much, I like this little vortex mixer by IntLab. You can get them from pretty cheap online. I definitely recommend it if you're painting a lot, want to save your arm from shaking. That's a good little piece of equipment. And you know it's shaking up when you turn it upside down. If there's any pigment sitting on the glass, then you need to shake it some more. But if it's cleared, then you're good. A metal trash can. Little bag inside with some vermiculite in the bottom or some cat litter to stuff, old rags and stuff so that things don't catch on fire in the hot months, and a metal lid to keep everything closed and contained so that no combustion can happen. This is a little paint catcher for when you're cleaning out your airbrush. It collects the vinyl thinner, leftover vinyl thinner that you can then use to make your own fun mystery paints. Save the bottles and you can make your own colors by using leftover paint. And hose, our airbrush hose, we're going to go ahead and hook that up. It's just a standard airbrush hose. And the pressure we're going to do is between 15 to 20. I like to usually shoot at 20 psi, 25 if you're going to do clear coating or you really want to spray it out fast. But 20 is pretty good. 15 is good for detail work. This is a air compressor. I keep it outside because it's loud, and I got a little box that we made for it to insulate the noise, protect it from the rain. But yeah, that's a good compressor. It's kind of heavy duty, but I paint a lot, and it's honestly about the same price as a fancy air compressor from for specifically for airbrush work and stuff. So I say just go ahead and get the big guy. This is a vinyl thinner bottle that you're gonna want because it squirts out the vinyl thinner a lot quicker and easier than having to open the cap and close it every time. Adjustable pliers. These are helpful. You definitely want to get yourself some adjustable pliers. Nothing special, just something to be able to pop the lids off of your paint because they will stick if you don't clean the bottles before you put the lids back on. And I have a bad habit, as do most painters, of not cleaning the paint drips. Okay, now first step. We're going to clean the vinyl. We're going to take some vinyl thinner. We're going to put it on a little makeup sponge. And you don't have to use a makeup sponge. I like makeup sponges. But you can use a paper towel, shop rag, or even just a brush. A clean brush dipped in thinner. What we're doing is we're just cleaning off all the mold release from the vinyl pull. So typically when vinyl is cast, there's some kind of oil or mold release put in there to help the vinyl come out easier. It's not always used, but you never really know when it is and when it isn't. So I say be better safe than sorry and just clean it off. The vinyl thinner will not only clean that off, but it'll open the substrate of the vinyl and make it the vinyl paint connect. It'll actually absorb into the vinyl that way. It's a chemical bond. That's how you get the chemical bond. You don't have to do that. You can just paint straight on it and it'll still stick. But if you want it to be really scratch proof and really durable, I highly recommend doing a little thinner bath before you paint. All right, so we're going to start with some clear purple, and I'm going to put in our airbrush cup, put the lid back on, and go to town here. So we're going to keep the sprays pretty simple just to demonstrate how this goes, but we'll spray some purple on the top, and we'll spray a little purple on the sides, thinking the airbrush cup tip hand and the Wonderbot's claw hand. We'll put a little purple on that. There we go. And that paint will dry pretty quickly. To touch, give it 5 minutes and you could probably touch it. I wouldn't try to scratch it off or really try anything. You want to give it 24 hours before you really, handle it. But just to pick it up and move it, it dries pretty quickly. Now we're going to move on to the clear blue. Usually I clean out the colors in between, but for something like this, like a transition, when I'm doing sort of a transition anyways, I don't usually worry about it. I just kind of add the blue in on top. And get some nice fades, nice gradients that way. I'm just going to kind of go around and kind of feel it out. I don't have any set plans for this. I'm just kind of taking it as I go. And another reason why I kept these two pieces apart, because it's easier to hold this way. I can kind of stick my finger inside the vinyl and keep myself from having to hold where I'm painting. But you can paint this fully assembled. Just be careful not to touch the paint right after you finish painting it. See, it's already dry on the top. I can already touch the top there. Let's put a little spot on top. This will kind of demonstrate a cool effect of glazing the clear colors. If you put the blue over the purple, you get like a nice indigo there. You see, it's like, and then if you shift it in the light, it kind of shifts from blue to purple, which is pretty cool. It's a cool effect. You can do all kinds of cool glazing with the clear colors. And yeah, well, you know what? Instead of let's do a little bit on the bottom too. This will create a nice fade. Once it's assembled, it'll kind of look like the blue is sort of fading down into the belly. And then we'll pour the blue back in there, save the excess, put the lid on. Don't want to leave the lids off or the solvents will evaporate pretty quickly. So always keep your lids on your paint. And then we're going to clean out the airbrush in between little colors with an old brush. This is just an old cheap paintbrush that I'm using to kind of get down in there and clean it out with, and then spraying out the excess into the vinyl paint cup, the cleaning station. We don't have to get it perfect because we're just going to keep on painting, just trying to get the most of the color out so that the magenta and the blue don't mix and make purple. All right, so clear magenta. This is a fun color. Depending on what you paint it on, it can come out really pink or more of a deeper magenta. Like if you paint this straight on white, it'll be a really bright fluorescent pink. All these clear colors, by the way, are blacklight reactive. So they glow under a blacklight. All right. There we go. Look at that bubblegum candy pink. Popping. All right. So now we're going to clean that out. You know what? Actually, we'll put a little clear pink over the blue. I'm going to show you another glazing effect. Like I said, you put the clear over the blue and now you get a nice purple. It's kind of hard to tell the difference, the difference of the purples in the video, but in person they show a lot more. It's going to be a really bright purple in person because the magenta is going over the blue. All right. Just squirt a little more vinyl thinner in there, clean it out. And using a shop towel to kind of wipe out some of it to clean it a little faster. You can use any kind of paper towel. You don't have to use shop towels. And now we're going to get some pearl white in there. I like this is a cool effect. You know, when you're working with clear colors on clear vinyl, a lot of details can get lost in the sculpt. And a cool way to get those details to pop under the light is by adding just a little directional spray of pearl white or some other kind of metallic color. And the pearl white I really like for this because it's naturally translucent. So you're going to be able to keep that clear quality that you're wanting in the vinyl, so the light can shine through, but you'll add like a metallic finish on top, which you'll see here in a second. Oh, and that little thing where I just sprayed it off there, that's a technique. If your airbrush is kind of dirty like mine is, it's good to kind of do a little spray right before you actually spray on there, because it might get some some crud that's collected on the needle that shoots out. And just kind of like spraying off away from your figure right before you go onto the figure kind of ensures that you don't get that. You can do that and do it purposefully and get those little spots to look cool. You see how that works? Look at that. It's a nice metallic. You still got that sort of candy clear color thing going on underneath it, but it's got like a nice little metallic overspray on top, and it really pops the details of the sculpt out. Really like this effect. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom, just a directional spray from above. You don't want to do it all over. You want to keep that directional spray. Just pick an angle and go at it from that angle, and that's how you'll pop the sculpt. You see, you're kind of getting the highlights. It's hitting the highlights. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. Let's see. Very nice, very nice. So we'll take that and check it out. Look at it through the light too. We'll hold it up to the light so that you can see how clear it still remains and how the light passes through it. Very nice. All right, so we're going to take the excess pearl white. It kind of got colored by the pink that was in there, so make it a mystery color out of that. And we're going to clean this out. Always clean your airbrush out when you're done. Right after you're finished, you want to clean it right out. You don't want to let that paint sit in there and dry, or it gets harder to clean out. And you want to do a pretty thorough job if you're finished for the day. So if you're finished for the day and you're not painting anymore, I like to take the needle out, and because that gets pretty coated with paint and can stick in there. If the needle does stick on you, it's not the end of the world. You can take those adjustable pliers later the next day and you can pull them out with the adjustable pliers, and then you can clean it. Vinyl thinner will break down paint that's dried. So if the paint has fully dried and fully cured, vinyl thinner will completely take it apart and clean it all up. So it's not the end of the world. It's just easier to clean if you do it while it's still wet. You don't have to use as much vinyl thinner. Now I usually go in there a few times. I put my finger on the front of the cap there, the front of the needle cap, and then I pull back on the lever, and you can get that back pressure with the air, and it'll really clean it out inside. And then spray a little more in there and just keep going at it until it's clear. If there's color in the cup, you want to keep cleaning. But if it's clear, then you're good. All right, now that's looking a lot better. So one more time. This is a good technique. You can take a white sponge or white paper towel or whatever and just try paint spraying on there. If you see any color, you need to keep cleaning. If you don't, then you're good. And we didn't see any color there, so we're good. And gonna take the hose off. And for more detailed instructions on how to clean your airbrush, like real deep cleaning, there's another video that you can watch on our channel. I recommend it if you're, trying to get to sleep, because it's really long and really boring. But, it's informative. All right, so now we're going to wait. This is my vulture friend, Kahar. I named him after the injured bird from Watership Down, one of my favorite books. He showed up several months ago with a broken wing, so I started feeding him in the hopes that he'd let me get close enough to fix his wing, but it took him about a month to trust me, and by then his wing was permanently set that way. But we take care of him, and he's a real sweetie.
So now that the paint has fully cured for 24 hours, we are going to assemble it. Now, if it's humid in your area, you're going to want to leave it for 48 hours just to be safe. Or if it's really cold, those things can slow down the cure time. But since everything's pretty nice here, we're going to go ahead and assemble this. Going to heat up this end. That's pretty good. And then we're just going to kind of pop it in. And a little twist, a little pop and twist. And then there we have it. All right, so in addition to this Wonderbot that I just painted for you guys in this tutorial, I've got a few other examples to inspire you. I painted up this Buona Spoons inspired Wonderbot using the Buona Spoon signature set from vinylwonder.com. I did another one with that same signature set, but in a different scheme there, you can see. And then I also made a Craftsman Wonderbot, where I sculpted a Craftsman head and stuck it in there, cut the visor out so I could put it in there, have him be driving the Wonderbot there. And then over here we got this Creature Maker Toys custom that he painted up. Isn't that just amazing? He sculpted a little three-eyed monkey mecha driver in there for that one and painted it up using 100% Vinyl Wonder toy paints. Just incredible job there, incredible job. So remember, you can do whatever you want. Just have fun, celebrate, and imaginate. See y'all next time.